It's ironic that today we are experiencing these crises under perhaps the most openly racist and exclusionary president that we've seen in quite some time. But our underlying culture still accepts those discriminatory disparities, and indeed, we perpetuate and facilitate them if we cannot attribute them directly to intentional and openly expressed racial discrimination. Unfortunately, in these crises, we are doing the same. I would cite, for example, the steps that have been taken in response to the pandemic that continue to embed within them discriminatory exclusions. At a time that we should be coming together to jointly, as a single community, respond to this pandemic, we have instead enacted at the federal level legislation that continues to exclude. I cite, for example, the exclusion from receiving economic stimulus checks of every person who files taxes using an ITIN or individual taxpayer identification number. Folks who file with ITINs are by and large folks who are undocumented. They are still taxpayers. And every one of those individuals and every member of their families, including their US citizen spouses and US citizen children, are completely excluded from receiving stimulus checks simply as a result of their taxes being done with someone who files using an ITIN. We know that that exclusion has a racially discriminatory impact, particularly on the Latino and Asian American communities, but we accept it and have accepted it so far. I cite also the Department of Education, through Secretary Betsy DeVos, providing guidance that suggests that some immigrant students, again with a clear racially discriminatory impact, should not receive relief, according to every other student in their universities, from the federal allocations of emergency financial aid. When our economy begins to recover and jobs are restored, we will see long-standing patterns of discrimination in employment recur. You can guess with a high degree of accuracy that the folks who will be hired back first will be white employees. That the folks who will not be hired back until much, much later in the recovery will be African American, Latino, and Asian American employees. We have to prepare for that, and we have to prevent it from occurring. And we are facing the potential of high levels of voter suppression tied to taking advantage of the pandemic. We've seen this in President Trump's continual tweets without any support whatsoever, suggesting that there is fraud behind making remote voting options, including vote by mail, more readily available to all registered voters. We have to prevent that kind of reaction from allowing the exploitation of the pandemic to lead to vote suppression. Every eligible voter should have the opportunity in November to participate and participate freely